is up, Tampa Bay? Excited to be with y'all tonight on another episode of Living in Tampa Live. This is Market Update Tuesday and also Taco Tuesday and also Primary Tuesday. Lots going on today. So we got Miss Ashley with us this evening up in Pasco County. Good evening, Land O'Lakes specifically.
Good evening. Yeah.
How is Land O'Lakes treating you tonight?
It's pretty good. All kids are back in school, started last week. Sports are in full gear. So just kind of getting settled into that new 2026, 2027 school year.
Well, welcome back, everyone. Welcome back, parents. Best of luck. May the odds be in your favor. It's basically how it boils down. And y'all know I've shared before, but if you didn't know, we homeschool. So we started yesterday as well. Kids are settling back in the routine, and my wife is surviving already. So I know what that looks like. Ashley, congratulations on that side. But yeah, today, y'all, if you're just joining us, we want to welcome you to the conversation. A few things that we'd love you to know about these live streams. First and foremost, this is not the news. We're not talking to you from a pulpit or down to you. We want to make this engaging as possible. So feel free to let us know where you're watching from. First of all, like our friend here from Kevin out in Lakeland. Good evening, sir. Good to see you.
Hey,
also, we got Keith out in Sheffield Village, Ohio. Good evening, Keith.
Hey, Keith.
Good to see you as usual. So let us know where you're watching from. If you have questions or comments, please feel free to put those in that chat as well. We'd love to take those live. And when we get into heavier topics like the real estate market updates, we definitely want to make sure we answer questions. I know people have those. We're going to get into them as we get going along here. Keith gave us the obligatory wave. We got Miss Desiree in the house. She says, "Happy Tampa Taco Tuesday from upstate New York." That's a whole mouthful, by the way.
Yeah.
Good to see you, Desiree. Good to be with you. Happy to be with y'all. And again, stories tonight. We're going to be talking about the Tampa real estate market because y'all, I know that everybody was gloom and doom back in the spring, but we sat in here then and told you that based upon data, that did not look like how it was going to play out. So we're going to show those numbers not only for so far this summer, but what happened last month in July. We're going to be talking about Amendment 3, which is going to be on the ballot here in November. So anybody interested in property taxes, we're going to talk about that. The reason we're digging back into that is because the Florida State Attorney General had to make some modifications because the court required it. It was a change in language. The structure of the amendment is still intact. I'm going to read that update for you. I'm going to share it with you as well. You guys can look at that on your own. We're going to be talking really unique thing happened from a congressman up in New Jersey. Congressman up in New Jersey. He proposed legislation that could potentially make a huge difference in your mortgage. We're going to get to that tonight as well. We're going to talk about the luxury market here in Tampa Bay because we are at the top of a list, and it could be good, could be bad, depending on your situation. I don't know. We'll talk about it as we get into that tonight also. And then Allegiant has added 9 new flights out of Tampa Bay, not Pi specifically. We'll get into those. Some of them I think people are going to be really happy about. So we'll kind of get into that. And then Miss Ashley's got new development information for us up in Hernando and Pasco County. I'll let her give you what's going on there. So not going to steal the thunder from Mrs. Ashley up. But yeah, happy to be with y'all tonight. We're going to get right into the numbers. And I have tried my best, y'all. You guys know I love to get in the weeds. And I've tried to simplify this the best I can. So for those of you who don't know, we have a blog, and I am posting this information to our blog before we go live every month when this is released. For anyone wondering why we're just talking about July's real estate market information, it's because it doesn't get released till typically around mid-month. It came out yesterday. We're going to get into those details, and that just has to do with making sure that everything is closed and recorded properly at the county, and then they vet the numbers and bring it to you. There are other sites that do kind of predictions on closings, but we always like to go off the confirmed data. We'll share that with you guys in detail. So we'll get into that. Wendy up in Ohio, she says, "Hi, Madison. If you're watching," she has the night off, so hopefully she's not. But I know she'll go back and watch. So thank you for doing that, Wendy. I appreciate that. We got Miss Sandra in the house too. What is up, Sandra? Good to see you. Good to see you. So it's good to be with everybody here. I'm going to get right into it. So let me share the screen with y'all and we can get into the deets here because this is, you know me, I love the numbers. And let me make sure.
Yes, you do.
Ashley, is that big enough? I got terrible eyes. I'm the wrong.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I mean, it's
yeah. How about now?
That's even better.
All right.
Better.
Good. For people who have eyes well into their years like me that don't work as well, I'm doing my best over here, right, y'all? But we're going to get into this because this is important to note. I know that, if you follow our channel at all, or if you follow the internet, people have been telling you that the real estate market is going to crash forever, right? And it's happened literally twice in the last 100 years. But every single day, there's a new crash caller, a doomsayer, whatever they are out there. But, we're going to hit you with the facts rather than the quote unquote opinions about what's going on out there. But here's some very interesting things happening in our marketplace specifically. We're going to cover our 5 counties tonight. We're going to be talking about Pasco County to the north, Hillsborough, which is where Tampa proper sits, Pinellas County, which is where I am. That's Clearwater, St. Pete. We're going to be talking about Manatee. So you think Parish and Bradenton, and also Sarasota, Lakewood Ranch, Sarasota, Northport, et cetera. Kind of getting into the weeds there. But we're going to focus on single family. We're not going to talk about condos. And it's not because I'm trying to omit it to make the numbers look better. Majority of our clients focus on single family homes. I can get in the weeds on that. I will include that in the blog so you guys can get deeper on all those numbers if you like. But we're going to be talking about single family homes because, again, that's where most of our clients are looking for. Out of the 100 homes we'll sell here this year, we'll probably only sell 10 or less condos. And to be quite frank, the market's not great for it. So unless you're buying one of the really nice new construction multi-million-dollar properties on 400 Central over in Tampa, that market's really, really tough. So we're not going to get too far in the weeds there, but let's get going here on single family home. And forgive me if I'm not looking right at you. I'm looking at our blog that we put together here, but here's the headline. Not a single county in Tampa Bay out of all 5 of them had depreciating prices. So that's the first thing to note. So anybody telling you that the market is crashing, I would love to know where their data is coming from. Because again, this has been a trend, but there is a huge variance in between, and we definitely need to get into that. But the one that shocked me, well, I guess I should say shocked me the most, because if anybody's been following this journey here, Pinellas County, where I live, we're talking about Clearwater, St. Pete, which was hit by hurricanes almost 2 years ago now. And our market was really tough last year because of that. We were recovering from it. And Ashley, do you remember when I read the article that said 2 to 3 years after a hurricane goes through, home prices go way up, right? And the reason that happens, and I'll share with you some quotes from builders and things like that in Pinellas County that will give you that. But the reality of it is Pinellas County is up 7.8% year over year in the month of July. And I remember back in the spring, people were like, it's going to be down. We're waiting continually. And it's been 4, 5, 6. Now we're up to almost 8% month over month. I mean, sorry, year over year in the month of July, which is a wild number. We're going to get to the specific numbers here. But the thing I want you guys to understand is home prices are not going down. Sarasota was up 5%. Manatee, which was down 3.8 back in May, climbed up. They were 1%. We'll get into the details there. We'll talk about Hillsborough and, of course, Sarasota County as well. But Pasco is now the only county in the region where homes are taking longer to sell. And we felt that. We've seen that. I'm going to, we'll get into that with Ashley a little bit here because that's her backyard. They're taking longer to sell. And there's more supply than there was last year. So that's the only county out of the 5 of them where it's moving towards a buyer's market healthily. It's already been there, but it's firmly entrenched, so to speak. So we'll get into those numbers and let's dive right into them. And I've tried to simplify these as best as I can, y'all. So walk with me here, but hopefully this is big enough. No, we can make it even bigger than that. So yeah, there we go. There we go. All right. So here's what's going on. I wanted to bring you just the meat of it, not get too far in the weeds if I didn't have to. Hillsborough County, where Tampa proper is, okay? Closed sales were actually up, meaning the amount of homes that sold, okay? That was 1,358. The median price was flat. So Hillsborough County did not go up, nor did it go down. So that one's flat, right? And as a homeowner, you're not beating inflation. So if we want to take into account inflation, I'll give anybody that's a negative. That's totally fine. It's not nothing. But regardless of that, you've been hearing that Tampa was down 5-10%. That's not true. We've given the numbers every single month, and they've been hovering around 0.5 to 1% to right around flat. So they're still on track with what they essentially been doing all year. My prediction was that Hillsborough County and Tampa would be sideways, and here we are. All right, Pinellas County, where I live, Clearwater, Tampa, St. Pete, Dunedin, Safety Harbor. These areas are super popular right now. The sales were up 941 units sold for single family homes. The median price, meaning the middle of the activity now, is up 7.8% at $469,000. So this time last year, you could get these houses around 415, 420. Now they're up to 470. Yeah. So that's man, you know what I mean? And here's the thing to look at on the back end of this. You see the number of homes for sale, it's down 23%. That is two things happening there. That is, there are people who are delisting because they're deciding not to sell. But really, this is a majority of that inventory being sucked up now that was lingering around. People realize that they're not going to get those discounts and those deals that they thought they were going to get, which were available right after the hurricane, essentially for 13 to 18 months, depending on which neighborhood you were looking in. But that's gone. Okay. And that inventory is being literally sucked right out. 23% from this time last year, less homes. Okay. The months of supply, this is the big one. They're down to 3.5%. That is firmly in a seller's market for anyone who's wondering. Okay. That is a seller's market. You get into the threes, you're in a seller's market. Pasco County, which is, again, where Miss Ashley is, and we'll kind of park it here for a second. Ashley, I got some questions to ask you about this. This is the opportunity for home buyers galore. Okay. What do I mean by that? There is a lot of pressure on pricing there because of all the new construction out there. It's not wonderful for home sellers because they're competing against builders. And it's not as simple as, hey, we'll list at the same price, because builders are offering some crazy incentives. Right, Ashley?
They really are. Yeah.
Right. So like what, on a $390,000 home, for example, which is not, our average client, they're purchasing in Pasco County for somewhere around 650 to 750. But that's the average sale, not the median.
Right.
But if you're out there, what kind of deals and incentives are you seeing with that kind of competitive market that you're seeing up in Pasco County? So we're talking about Land O'Lakes, Odessa, Wesley Chapel, right? And even San Antonio, going a little bit further north, Angelina as an example. What are you seeing in that $600,000 price range in terms of incentives?
I mean, closing costs are covered. The interest rates, you really just can't beat them, being right at 4.99, some 5.25 that they're offering. So you really versus the resale. But yeah, the incentives at the new build, it just makes it hard to turn away from.
It's very hard, right? So like, let's put some real numbers to that. At a $600,000 price point, I want to give you guys an example. Your closing costs, and we're not talking about anything the builder can't control. We're just talking about closing costs. So, title fees, mortgage fees, they're paying our compensation in full out there.
Yeah.
The custom builders or the real high-end semi-custom, then there may be some negotiation, but I was talking to my partner today, Ashley, we brought in 97% of our ask of compensation has come from the selling side. So again, the contribution is coming from that side. The mortgage interest rate, y'all, at today's mortgage interest rates, which are, hold on, let me pull that up. I should have included that in there.
Yeah, I did forget the buyer compensation. That's also a huge added bonus onto that as well.
So this is directly from Mortgage News Daily, which is a great site, but what they do is they aggregate, which means they get an average of all of the mortgage brokers and what they're selling these loans at. So here's today's rates. A 30-year fixed conventional loan in the United States right now is averaging 6.75. So if you're seeing a 4.95 on a $600,000 product, you're talking about $300 or $400 less a month.
Yeah,
it's a lot. All right, it's a lot. So again, $30,000 to $40,000 in closing costs, easy. Taking care of your representations compensation, which again is another significant chunk, typically somewhere between 2% and 3%, depending on who you hire, right? Then the mortgage discounts. That doesn't even include things like appliance packages. Right. Lot premiums that we're seeing negotiated. Heck, we're even seeing negotiations on CDD fees, which is wild. That's a whole nother conversation. I don't want to get too far down the rabbit hole there, but that is available to you. There's a certain mechanic that has to happen.
We've even done some to where, you have the closing costs, and we've negotiated a little bit more into buying down even that rate. So we put them in different buckets. So there's just a lot of different ways to structure that they're being very lenient on.
And the reason we're digging in here is because if you're a home buyer, that's amazing in Pasco County, right? But if you're a homeowner trying to sell your home, y'all, you have to remember, you are not competing most of the time. This isn't always 100% true, but I'm going to give you the generalization right now, which will hold firm for most of the market. If you are in a community that has new construction within 10 minutes of you in Pasco County, heck, even 15 minutes of you in Pasco County, you're not competing against your neighbors. You're also competing against that new construction, what makes it really tough. So again, feel for my homeowners out there who are trying to sell, and congratulations to the home buyers out there taking huge advantage of the opportunity in the marketplace. So that's what's going on in Pasco County. It's important to dig deep into that. Sarasota, getting into Sarasota County. So now we're talking about areas like Lakewood Ranch, the south side of Lakewood Ranch. Obviously, we're talking about Sarasota proper. We are talking about Northport, areas down there that are really kind of cranking through. They've seen a pretty healthy rebound there as well. 744 homes sold. So not as many as in Hillsborough. It's about half. About a 20% less than Pinellas County. But their home price, they have the highest, second highest median home price. And this was interesting to me, $493,500, up 5% year over year on that number. And look at the inventory there too. Another market where 23% of the inventory got sucked out. So what that means is there's 23% less homes to purchase this July than there was last. That's a significant decrease in that number. Months of supply there, again, they're under 4 months as well. Again, leaning really strong towards the seller's market. It's not a crazy seller's market, but that's something to take note of. And then Manatee County, we're talking about Bradenton Parish. I mean, there's more than that, but those are the big names that most people will recognize. 694 homes sold there. They have the highest median sales price on this. Y'all, I did not see that coming. All right.
There's so much going on in Parish, but I'm shocked to see the number. It's crazy.
Crazy, right? For them to have the highest it's almost $500,000 to buy a single family home in Manatee County.
There was nothing there in Parish before. It's crazy. The growth.
It's great. Now, there are still really great incentives on new construction. So I want to make sure that we call that out in Parish, in those areas there. Same thing in Lakewood Ranch. But y'all, the reality is the numbers are there. They had a healthy decrease. They had a normal decrease in inventory of almost 8%. And then they're just over that 4-month mark on the months of inventory. So just kind of getting in the weeds here, y'all, on real estate numbers. Again, remember, this is single family home for the greater Tampa Bay area. I know some people will argue that Sarasota is not Tampa Bay. It's Tampa Bay. All right. It's different, but it is the Bay Area. So I want everybody to kind of get a sense for this. And, this is the slower time of the year. The thing I do want to help people understand, if you're looking, September is a great time to start getting into the market here because it slows down tremendously. Mm-hmm. Anyone who's been trying to chase a price around, especially in areas like Pasco County or where they're fighting against new construction, those homeowners are in trouble. Because what did we start with today? Ashley, the kids went back to what?
School.
People aren't home shopping for the first month of September anywhere in the country, right? And we just went back to school there. So the sales will slow. That's a very natural cycle. Every time I show you guys those graphs where the sales go up and down, they start sliding in July, and they basically belly out in about November, and they start to pick back up in December and January locally here. It doesn't mean nothing's selling. It's just a lot slower, and there's going to be less homes listed.
even on one of my showings today, I was in the Lutz area, and we went into a very cute home in Villarosa. And even me, it just came out, and I'm like, I cannot believe this home has not been scooped up yet. It was a great price. It was very cute. But still, I was like, I can't believe this hasn't been scooped up. But yeah, it's getting slower. So you're right.
Yep. And that's just natural. Let me
It is.
let me grab that real quick. I know we got some Redfin, but I'll just give context for everybody, right? So if we look at market home sales, this is just year over year. This is the United States as a whole. Number of homes sold 1 year. Let's go single family because that's where we are right now. They go back to June. It was pretty flat. You know, you saw a lift there naturally, but let's get to Tampa proper just to kind of give some perspective. And there you go. All right. 3-year chart. Make this bigger for y'all so everybody can see it. Okay. So you can kind of see the activity, right? Winners, you know, here we go. August of 23, it starts to slow down. September, sales go down. October, November, it's kind of bellies out, and then it starts to come back up. That was spring of 24. Into summer, you see another dip into September. Things were kind of cranking along. But again, last year, same time, decrease. So what I'm sharing with y'all is this is cyclical. Okay, this is very normal to see this type of activity in the United States when it comes to real estate. We're about a month ahead of the snowbirds up north in terms of them going back to school. Really, we're about 3 weeks.
Yeah.
But that information is important for everybody to kind of digest, right? And know, again, it's a better time to get into the game. You're up against less competition, but you're also going to see less listings. So it's kind of like you're walking the tightrope. But in my experience, September through November is a really good time to target properties because you just don't have as much competition. All right. So getting into that buyer side, right? If you are thinking about buying, how does this affect you? We're going to do this if you're considering selling as well. So you guys can see this, and you can find this on our blog, thattampalife.com/blog, or you can just go to the blogs and it'll take you right to that. So you guys can get into this. This is the big version for old eyes. But the reality of it is, right, the only county where inventory went up was Pasco. That's pressure from home builders up there. Ashley's going to take us out to new developments and show you what's going on. So there is more opportunity there. Where it tightened up, we're talking about inventory specifically is Sarasota and Pinellas County, where I live. The month supply fell by 30%, which is crazy to say that out loud. That's nuts. Yeah, the middle, which is Hillsborough, Manatee. Hillsborough barely moved. We saw that the numbers were flat there. And then Manatee did increase from their big bounce that they had in May because they were down a few percentage points. So, you know, if you're thinking about purchasing, your biggest opportunities right now are going to be in Hillsborough County by the numbers and Manatee County. I'm sorry, Pasco County. Those are your two biggest opportunities on paper. Also, Pasco was the lowest price point as well. Let me go back up there because that was the big thing. They're the only one with a number less than 400,000 for the median sales price home, 390. And it's always been that way. That's not any different. But man, Manatee at 495. I did not see that coming.
Yeah, that's
crazy. Yeah, it's a big number. All right. So what if you're considering selling in this market? And I think it's important if you're a buyer, you should pay attention to what the sellers have to kind of go with. They're in a really strong position if they're in Pinellas or Sarasota. And we know this to be true. I mean, we got clients running around in the $1 to $1.5 million price range. That inventory is very competitive. Multiple offers regularly right now, which is crazy to say that, right? And in a market that again, 18 months ago wasn't hurting because of the hurricanes, which is crazy. It's better than it looks in Manatee and Hillsborough. Again, you know, really strong numbers with the median home almost being worth $500,000 in Manatee County, which is excellent. You know, you got some great schools up there. They rank really high in terms of safety, education, obviously a lot of new amenities and a lot of access to inventory. So they've been winning up in those areas. So keep your eye on that. And again, if you are selling in Pasco County, y'all, I know you want to get 2022 prices on your houses, but that is not the reality of today. All right. It's, we always talk about the wins, and I think a lot of people don't share the challenging outcomes that you have too. And we had a seller who we met with back in the spring in Hillsborough. This is at the northern side of Hillsborough County. Sorry, in Wesley Chapel, and really lovely home. Their neighborhood butted right up against new construction. New construction all around them. The schools didn't rank the highest out of Wesley Chapel. They actually were one of the lowest schools out in Wesley Chapel. And we gave them pricing recommendations, and they decided they wanted to ask for the moon. Normally we would say no, because it doesn't help either party, right? Like, we want to help you sell. We only get compensated if we ever do that. But y'all, like, man, if you got a good pro and they can help you get to the reality of what you're trying to accomplish, like, you're hiring them for a reason. I'm not saying, to not do your homework. You absolutely should interview multiple people, do diligence on pricing and strategies and a lot of different things. But, they decided they wanted to go really strong. I personally would not have taken the listing. One of our team member did. They took it for $50,000 over what we recommended. That within 35 days, the seller was frustrated. We had sat 3 open houses. They would not reduce the price, ended up terminating the agreement with us. That home got relisted. Guess where they're sitting today, Ashley, where the price is today?
Probably where you first recommended.
Where we first recommended it. Guess where it's not going to sell?
Where
we first recommended it, right? And y'all, like, I'm not, I know that this can sound away, but the reality is like, man, I wouldn't hire a doctor and then not take their advice. Okay. So again, I'm not your agent. I'm just telling you, do your diligence, get lots of perspective, make a really sound decision, and know the market that you're in. Because Ashley, they're going to end up either renting that home or sitting on it. But at this point, they're going to lose probably $50,000 to $75,000 from where they should have started. Right. Which is crazy. So price with real care is what I put in here. Okay. If you miss the price in a market that is down, right, or that has 4.5 or 5 months of inventory that you're facing new construction, you miss the market, period. Okay. Miss the price, miss the market in that type of environment. Right. You come over to Pinellas, you take those same houses, you drop one in Pinellas County, it's ripping. Right. Yeah. So again, even though Tampa Bay is Tampa Bay, all of these markets are local, right? You definitely want to make sure that you're dialed in and you have an understanding of what you're looking at, and the opportunities that are in front of you. Nothing's perfect. Markets are cyclical, meaning that they move up and down. They have this cycle about them. But be cautious if you're listing into a market that is hyper competitive, like you are up in Pasco right now. Okay. Yeah. Keep that in mind, guys. Keep that in mind. Just make sure that you know what's going on. All right. So Sulfader says, you guys were right about shopping the neighborhood first. North Venice won us over last minute, moving 11-1 and 10 minutes from the beach. There you go. Nokomis probably, I'm guessing. Shout out to that, by the way. Shout out to Northport. And on the bottom end of Sarasota over there, y'all, for those that, we don't talk about Northport a whole ton because it's slowly developing down there, but get more popular. All right. So what's going on? If you want to know more about what your home is worth, the numbers are dialed in here, y'all. You guys can reach out. I also put the link to the homestead tax breakdown that I put in there, and I'm going to get into this because this is adjacent to our story. But before I do that, I want to get back into the numbers about what we're seeing here in Pinellas specifically. Ashley, when I moved here in 2018, I remember looking at our market then, because that was a quote unquote normal real estate market in the United States. Home prices were appreciating about 3.5 to 5%, depending on where you were. And I remember coming down here and Dunedin was 8% year over year for the last 2 coming in. I was like, what's going on over here? Right. Like Pinellas County was getting really popular. So I remember what that was like when we first moved down here. We wrote 2 offers on houses in Pinellas County in 2018 and did not get either one of them accepted because the market was competitive. And at 8%, 7.8% is a wild number to be up. Okay. In an area that had hurricanes, had its challenges, but here we are. Like I've said this before, people have short memories. Right, right.
Yeah.
They have very short memories, and people want what they want. I know everybody thinks they're nuts. And for anybody out there going, homes are overpriced, they're going to crash. Y'all, the numbers do not say that. Okay. Our numbers don't say it. And that may be happening where you are. However, it's also probably not
Yeah.
likely based upon what's going on in the United States.
I mean, Madison and I felt it, you know, in the summer too. Her and I were both kind of in that same price range, Safety Harbor, Dunedin,
Yep.
and we were reaching out. I mean, the supply was just not there, but the demand was crazy. It's
Still
right up
is. Yeah, still is. So I want to get into that, what's going on with the luxury end, right? Because it's not just the smaller single family homes, you know, the the 3.2s or even the 2.2s we have over here in Pinellas County. You want to live by the beach, you can still find a 2-bedroom, 2-bath. They're in my neighborhood, way more than they were up north where we moved from. That was very rare to see a 2-bedroom house. Usually somebody had torn a wall out somewhere to make this the second bedroom a master suite kind of thing, because they were 1,100 square foot ranches. But here you can find a 1,400 square foot 2.2. It happens, you know, with the pool. But this article came out at the beginning of July, and it was talking about Tampa leading the nation in luxury home prices, and not meaning that we have the highest home prices in the luxury market, but that we were leading the way in terms of growth and fast. And I want to get into this specific thing that was in this article here, because this is a builder and a broker in the area here, and he was talking about the market. He says somebody is buying $2 to $3 to $5 million house. They're not really looking at interest rates. So this is the thing that I think sometimes we get disconnected with. People go, well, who can afford those things right now? They're paying cash, or they're using some other asset to finance this one. And that's not usually what's going on here, but this is unique because it ties back into what I was talking about earlier. He said the updated FEMA rebuilding requirements. And for anybody who followed along in the journey, if your home was damaged by more than 50%, the FEMA rule stuck in, and you either had to rebuild the entire house, scrape and build, or you had to raise the home. You couldn't fix the other house and get insurance money for it. That's the hang up. If you had cash, you could put that little cottage back together, which people did. You drive down Gulf Boulevard, you're still going to see those little, they call them cracker cottages. That's where that name came from. It's not a disparaging remark. I want everybody to know this. But that's what they were called way back in the day. All of those flooded. I was down there mucking out those houses, actually. Every one of them flooded. You know what they did? They paid cash, fixed the house, and they're renting them back out as Airbnbs, or people are living there, or whatever it is. But the people who didn't, who sold these homes, what ended up seeing is what he said. He said, you're seeing a lot more luxury development popping up because this 20-mile stretch of beach property has this stuff you can't find anywhere, right? We always talk about how the Lord isn't making more land. Usually he's taking it away. And that's exactly what they're talking about here. And in that study that they did in Tallahassee 20 years ago, it said whenever a hurricane comes through, 2 to 3 years later, the home prices go up and it starts to push even more people out. There's a secondary effect that occurs. And this is why I'm bringing this to everybody's attention, because it's not just the fact that, you know, home prices did dip significantly. You could buy a home for the land value.
Yeah.
Right. And there's still houses over there that haven't been touched. But people did. They came in, purchased them, tore them down, and now they're building a $2, $3, $5 million home over there. Well, what does that do to the taxes of everybody else? It raises the taxes, and people who are on fixed incomes, or maybe they inherited homes who don't make that kind of money, they are now forced to sell as well. And the cycle repeats. And I'm just sharing the truth of this, because I remember when people were like, oh, it's over. It's never, like, first of all, it's Florida. This happens a lot. And 23 million people live here. 10 million people have moved here in the last decade. Right? Not Tampa Bay, but the state, right? Like, they don't care. People have short memories. And this is significant. So I wanted to get into the part of this is the why. And when you look at these numbers, this is directly from the Redfin article here. I'm going to share with you guys now. So it says the tale of two markets. Luxury home prices are rising 3 times faster than non-luxury prices. That's a huge difference. A huge difference, right? So that's a big number. And then it gets down to, I'm not going to go through the charts there, but here's the headline inside of the Redfin article. And I'll link all of these resources in the description below if you're watching the YouTube video, so you guys can have access to this. If you have questions, reach out to us. My number's on the screen. We're here to answer the questions, but and drop in the chat too. Happy to answer them there. But Tampa and Miami lead the nation in luxury home price growth. I'll get that on my mouth eventually. Luxury, and what it said, luxury home prices in Tampa rose 15.6% year over year.
That's insane.
The biggest increase, right?
Yeah.
Of the 50 most populous metros, followed by Miami at 14.2. By contrast, non-luxury prices fell 0.5% in Tampa as they fell 0.7 in Miami. So this was from that would have been June's numbers that came through. But man, and we've seen this right in our marketplace. You know, with the Waldorf Astoria is coming up, the $27 million condo that won't even be built for 3 years. It was already purchased, right? So this market is still growing, and people are investing heavily in the area. Do your own homework, y'all. I want you to be aware of that. But I wanted to bring that to you guys as we went through July's numbers. Of course, like I said, you can go to our blog. You'll find all this information there. This comes directly from the county closings and the MLSs that we have here. You can see the sources when you go to those websites. And couple quick notes. Well, let's just stay in housing real quick, and then we'll jump over to the flights that are taking place here, because I think that is some cool stuff happening. All right, I want to talk about this actually. Shifting gears here from local to national headlines, because this, you know, if something like this was to take place, it would make a significant difference in the housing market. I don't know that it's a good thing, and we'll talk about why here in a minute. But I think it depends on the situation, right? This is called the MOVE Act, and it was introduced by a New Jersey congressman by the name of Thomas Keene Jr. Okay, he doesn't get too hard. The bill's only 2 pages. The link's here. I'll put it in here. You can read it. It's very simple. But here's what it breaks down to, rather than getting in the weeds of this. What he's proposing is that you as a homeowner, no matter where you live in the United States, you would be able to take your mortgage interest rate that you have today, and if you buy a new home, you could apply that interest rate to your new purchase. Okay, let me know in the chat what you guys think about that. Do you think that's a win for homeowners, or does that make you nervous? Love to know in the chat. If you're watching this later, let us know. I'm going to get into the caveats, because there's always some, and what that actually looks like, right? But think about that. Let's just say that you own a $400,000 house, you have a $400,000 mortgage balance. That's the most important thing, right? Let's say that you own a home, it's worth $6 in Arlington, Virginia, as an example. And your balance on the mortgage is only $400,000. That remaining balance is at 3%. So how this would work, Ashley, it's not as simple as I get to take my 2.75 or 3 and apply that all the way to the new property. Okay. What ends up happening is you're going to end up getting what's known as a blended rate. Okay. So you sell your home in Arlington, Virginia to a new buyer. They get whatever interest rate. Maybe they bring theirs, or maybe it's a first-time home buyer and they're buying at market rates. Today, that's 6.75%. That's what we saw in a 30-year fixed, right? How this would work is you've got a loan balance of $400,000. You would be able to take that $400,000 on, let's say you're buying an $800,000 home here. So half of that home, you would be able to have a 3% mortgage interest rate on. The other half of the home would be a 6.75. So essentially you have a blended rate of what? 5%, 4.75, somewhere around that. I didn't do the math real quick in my head, but like, think about that, y'all. Right. So like, That's very attractive.
It is.
That's very attractive. Now, again, this is proposed legislation. We talk about promises, right? We talk about policy, and we talk about plans all the time. This is somebody trying to come up with a solution to unlock the housing market, because the reality is, and maybe you're one of those people watching this, right? And if you are, let us know what your interest rate is. I'd love to know, because we have clients that have 2.75s, 3%, 3.5, and they're still moving, but they don't want to give those mortgage rates up. And there's a lot of people. Yeah. And actually, there's people out there that have literally will say, out of my cold, dead fingers, you will pry that 3% interest rate.
Yeah.
Right? So,
I mean, even some of our people or families that relocate for jobs, you hear them like, I just don't want to give it up. I'm like, I know, I get it. I really do.
Yep. It's so hard. I mean, I get it, right? Because honestly, and of course they bought in at a time when the homes were $50,000, $60,000, $100,000 cheaper than they are today, right? So all of those things matter. But I think it's an interesting look. I appreciate that people are trying to take unique approaches to this. The thing I don't love about it is that the 3% mortgage rates are why the market is so tough today to begin with. I'm super happy for anyone that got one. You didn't do anything wrong. I will celebrate those human beings. And I've shared with you guys, I bought my home in September of 2023. My interest rate is 7.125. It is nasty, right? It is nasty. But I'm grateful. I have a roof over my head. We're not in a situation where we're uncomfortable about making our mortgage payments. That's not it. But I'll tell you right now, if I had a 3% mortgage rate, I'd be a lot happier soul. But also to this person's point and others people's, I would probably never consider. I'm still probably not going to sell this house, but it would be you got to pry that out of my cold dead fingers, because it becomes a financial asset. Think about it. A 3% interest rate is better than inflation.
Yeah.
Right. Inflation is higher than your mortgage interest rate, which means you have it is negative amortization. That's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah.
A different day, but it really means that you're winning financially, period.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that this is very interesting. So I would love to know for you guys watching, are you one of those 2.75 to 3.25 where you're like, it ain't happening, I'm not selling, they're going to bury me in this thing, right? Or if something like this happened, would you be willing to say, okay, okay, I don't love interest rates today, but we would love to get a new house. And if we can get a rate of essentially 4.75, historically speaking, that's still an incredible interest rate.
I think that goes back to, some of the new construction, the incentives is when they're purchasing, those interest rates do come to mind, and because they're so hard to get rid of, the low interest rate that they had.
So hard to let those go.
Yeah.
All right. But yeah, interesting topic, y'all. So again, got into the weeds a little bit on real estate tonight, but that's okay. That is the goal. We, real estate market update here in Tampa. That's what's going on. And then last but not least, before we start moving into community news, and some community development stuff that's going on in the area here, I do want to bring the update on Amendment 3, because Ashley, today's primaries. So we're hearing all kinds, the last 2 weeks, people have been railing about, if you look in apps I have the neighborhood app. Have you heard of that before?
Yes, I have. Yeah.
Right? Yeah. There is all kinds of chatter about taxes, property taxes in there. Right. And, if you're looking to move to the area, you're like, I'd love to see, a decrease in my property taxes. And here's the reality of it. The Florida Supreme Court forced Tallahassee to rewrite the Amendment 3 proposal based upon some language that they felt was misleading. It's still intact, essentially the same way it was, but I think it probably is a little bit clearer to read, and that's okay. And I know this is hard, and this is the whole breakdown of it. This will be in the resources as well. You can actually read the entire amendment from tip to tail, but here's the breakdown of what's going on here. Okay. This amendment is increases the homestead exemption. Now, not everyone has a homestead exemption, Ashley, right? A homestead exemption in the state of Florida is you declaring residency as I'm saying, I am a Floridian. I have a permanent resident of this state. I have a driver's license here locally that says I am here. You may not own a home yet, but you are a resident. So let's start with that. But the homestead exemption is for primary homes that Florida residents own only. This isn't for second homes. It's not for corporations. Anybody that tells you that is absolutely full of nonsense. You already know that they have an agenda. You can just stop the conversation and go read it yourself. Okay. It is only for Florida residents who are claiming one property as their primary homestead property. Okay. So that's the first thing to start with. And it's only for, this is the other thing, all non-school taxes, meaning this does not defund property taxes that are levied for public schools. Okay. That is untouched, period. No ifs, ands, or buts. Okay. Now it takes the homestead exemption, which right now is $51,450 if you're married. If you're single, it's $25,000. Okay. But $50,000 for a married couple. It increases that in 2027 to $150,000. So essentially, this is a $100,000 increase on the decrease of your taxes. I know that seems really crazy to say, but the way that the homestead exemption works is, I'm going to break it down in simple math. If your home is valued at $500,000 by the tax assessor, I'm just going to use that number as an example. Okay. In the state of Florida, as it currently stands, you have a $50,000 homestead exemption, which reduces the taxable value of that home. The non-school portion of this is what I'm talking about, right? That $500,000, and essentially makes that home worth $450,000 to the county on how they can tax you. Okay, does that make sense? Simple enough, right? $500,000 home, you get a $50,000 break, which essentially makes the property $450,000 to the tax assessor, where they can tax you on. Okay, that number is going to go from $50,000 to $150,000 in 2027. And then it's going to increase again in 2028, another $100,000 to $250,000. It's going to save the average Floridian homeowner about $2,000 a year in your pocket. That's significant savings, y'all. And for anyone who is on fixed incomes or has the threat of being their property foreclosed on, these things make huge differences. Okay. Now, it also says on here, it adjusts for inflation thereafter, which means they have to look at these things. Now, our homestead exemption currently, right? The way that taxes work is they can't tax you any more than 3% or the rate of inflation, whichever is lower. So if we get inflation back down, it's good news. When inflation was low, Floridians were winning because their taxes couldn't go up more than inflation. Now that inflation is 3-point-something%, they're getting taxed 3% no matter what period, right? Every year. So just kind of digging at it. So again, this is only for Florida residents as their primary residence. Okay, that's where the homestead exemption is from. It's not for corporations. It's not for second homes. Not for any of that nonsense. Okay, it does not affect school taxes. That portion of your tax bill is still due. It's not adjusting. Okay, it's going to increase from $50,000 this year to $150,000 next year, $250,000 the following year, and it will adjust for inflation. And what it says in here is it requires. It requires the legislation to prescribe a uniform procedure for counties and municipalities for their respective levies to increase the homestead exemption up to the full assessed value, and allows special districts subject to the referendum to do the same. What does that mean? That they have to keep looking at this, right? And figuring out a way to reduce taxes for Floridians. Okay. Now it gets into the details. Persons who are not, and this is important to our clients who are moving to the area, persons who are not Florida residents on December 31st of 2026, not you just moved here, you are actually a resident, meaning you exchanged your license in New York for your Florida license here. You have a physical address. You are declaring you are a Floridian, as an example. Okay. You will receive the existing homestead exemption upon qualifying for a homestead exemption. Meaning, if you're not here, okay, so if you show up on January 1st of 2027, you stay right where we are right now. $50,000 exemption for 5 years.
I was going to say it's that lengthy period of time.
Yep. For 5 years. This is a big number. Okay. Okay. Now, continuing this, the amendment reduces the annual cap on assessment increases for non-homestead. Now, this is going to get important, from 10% to 5%. Now, why are they doing this? And what does that actually mean? Okay. If you own a second home in the state of Florida, they can tax you up to 10% increase every year. Okay. That's corporations, businesses, 10% every single year. Second home, not your primary residence. Remember this. So if you have a vacation home here, that bad boy is almost, I can guarantee you're almost going up 10% every year, right? What they're doing is they're reducing that number from 10% to 5%. Why? Because what the state says is, we know that the counties and the cities are going to try to go after those people. Well, we're not going to let you do that. You have to fix your budgets. This is what they're saying. You're not going to go try to weasel this out of everybody else in different ways. You are going to have to control your budgets. All right. And I'll say this, regardless of how you feel about what color red or blue is in the office in Tallahassee right now, our state has a surplus. So the math says that they have done an excellent job. And I don't care what color they are. I don't care if it's Republican or Democrat. I don't care if it's independent. Anybody who puts money back into the coffers in the state and has money to deploy in a surplus, they're doing a good job. Period. That's what the math says. Okay. Now, this amendment requires counties and municipalities to use property taxes. This is the big one, Ashley. Property taxes solely for public safety, education in schools, infrastructure, natural resources, bond debt. So that's debt that they have to repay, retirement benefits for existing employees, employees, not existing, and operations and administrations. That language is very specific for a reason. Why? Guess who's not going to take our money and be able to throw a party for whatever social cruise they want to? That stuff is going away. Mm-hmm. And again, I don't care about the politics of that. What I care about is the math of it. Taking money out of Floridians' pockets to go, quote unquote, do social programs all the time is what is putting people in debt. This is happening all over the United States, period. The math doesn't lie, right? When these taxes were put in place, the promise was it was for safety, infrastructure, and education. The homestead exemptions in the state of Florida have not increased since the Reagan years. Okay. It's been over 20 years. And home prices and taxes have quadrupled since then. They haven't kept up. So if you're asking if I'm a proponent, you should not have to guess anymore. The answer is yes. Do your own homework. Like I've said before about this, I have the math done in my county. Okay. And again, I gave Pinellas County credit. They actually were reducing some liabilities and taxes. I shout out to those guys. Credit where credit's due. Right. However, the budgets continue to bloat. They continue to spend money on things that don't make an impact on the core things that are important: safety, education, and infrastructure. Okay. And this is why this is important. So go read the amendment. It has nothing to do with giving money to corporations. It has none of that crap. All right, y'all, forgive me the strong language here, but it makes my blood boil, right, when I see this. And I also have strong opinions about this too. I brought this up last week, actually. The fact that people who don't own homes can vote on this, that is wild to me.
Yeah, I remember.
Right. And it's crazy because y'all, like, what most people don't realize is like they're signing their own challenges. That it's important. Part of this reason why they put that 10% to 5% reduction is so they don't go try and levy those taxes on the apartment buildings, because now the renters they're not going to reduce their budget. What they would do is try to go get that money from the renters first. Right. And people will say it's the landlords. No, the landlords aren't paying those. You are.
No, they're not.
Right. So y'all think through that. Okay. And again, I know we got the weeds here a little bit, but this is straight from Tallahassee, right? Florida Department of State. Y'all can go look at this. Try to bring this unbiased situation here. I have my bias about it, but the math doesn't lie. Run the numbers. Also look where the budgets are. And listen, the campaign is going to be municipalities are going to lose X amount of dollars. It's so ridiculous. That's not their money. Governments don't make money. We do. Right? It's your income. You earned it. And I promise you that individuals have the ability to spend that wisely where it makes the most impact to them. And oh, by the way, that ends up back in the form of sales tax. Right? Ashley, that $2,000, you're probably going to sit on it. You're going to spend it on your kids. Right? You're going to spend it on going to dinner. You're going to spend it on the necessities that you need. Maybe you're holding out projects in your house. Right? But that money every year, we're talking about $20,000 in the next decade. It's going to be more than that. It's going to end up being closer to $28,000 or $30,000 over the next decade.
Well, let me ask you this, because I know that some people may have this question here with this being advised. Are they streamlining this between single and married with the 25 and 50? Is this all going to be streamlined?
Yeah, I don't want to quote that yet. I'm going to go back in and I'll do another full blog on this, but you guys can go and see the text.
It's just how it does it. It makes it. That's what I was going to do, is go back through there to see if they were streamlining those numbers.
Yeah, I think the way when I read it, that's how I was reading it. It was just going to be primary residence, period.
Yeah, that's how
it wasn't about married or not married. So get into that. So there's other benefits too. And again, I know we're in the weeds on this a little bit, but we're talking about Florida real estate. We're talking about Tampa Bay real estate. All of these things go together. We've got clients who are considering moving. They're trying to, should I come down and get an apartment and change my license so I can have that residency? Because they're officially a Floridian at that point, even though they don't own the home yet. Taking advantage of that. So there's different ways to look at this. Again, this is not done. This has to be voted by the public in November. We won't know until then. It needs 2/3, so 60%. It's going to need 61% to pass to get to that point. But if it does, y'all, like this is real reform. It's not huge. It's not they removed all the property taxes. I don't see a world where that's actually going to happen. Because again, things have to be paid for at some point. But here's what I would say. And I can even get on the side of people who are like, you're going to go get it from everywhere else. Well, that's true. Part of that's true. But here's what I would vote for no matter what. There is no world where a local government should be able to foreclose on a property because of tax delinquencies. There's nothing else that we own, Ashley, that they can come get because we didn't pay taxes on it every year.
Yeah.
We live in the United States. Private property should be private property. Okay. You want to levy these fines? That's great. When it sells, you can go get the money, but foreclosing on human beings because they didn't pay the tax bill is wild. Right? To me, it's friggin' anti-American. That's a whole other conversation. All right. I know I don't really opinionated on this tonight. But I just, again, there's a lot of rhetoric out there. Just read the proposal, y'all. It's not complicated. They're not touching schools. They're not touching safety, and they're not touching infrastructure. The details are in here. They're not even talking about touching pensions. Are they going to have to do some of that? Probably, because people mismanage funds very poorly. And they're about to get exposed. The biggest challenge that most local governments has had is they're about to get exposed. Right? There's a saying that Warren Buffett used to say all the time. He's like, when the tide goes out, you can tell who's skinny dipping. And we're about to find out who's been prancing around in the Gulf with no trunks on. It's the best way I can put it. Right? All right. Now, Ashley's got some cool stuff for her. We'll get all the weeds of that mess. I
can't believe it's already been an hour. Those are like some really good topics that we've touched on and very informative.
Me running my mouth for an hour. Forgive me, y'all.
Yeah.
Sandra's over here asking questions, making sure that she knows what's going on. She was asking about her mortgage rate, 3.5%. This is what I'm talking about. Oh my goodness. Well, that's what you have at home right now, right, Sandra? That's what you're moving from. Correct me if I'm wrong. She's in the process here, but that's hard, man. That's hard to get away from. It's a tussle is what Key says. I agree, brother. I agree. All right, let's get into this. Miss Ashley, she brought some, again, we're talking about new developments. We're talking about opportunities. Let's get into that.
Yeah. I mean, just quickly, you know how the growth of Pasco County, Lando Lakes has Angeline community. That is a lagoon community. So just north is the next county, Hernando, which is getting 2 new lagoon communities. One is Sandal Key, and the other one here is Sunrise Hills. One of them is going to be a 900-acre development, and the other one is right down the street, will be an 1,100 acre development.
So
the lagoons are going to be a little, two. I had to read that at first. I'm like, okay, are these connected in some way? But I actually had to go in and dive a little bit deeper into seeing. But yeah, 2 separate. You have Pasco County, and the county just north of us is Hernando. So with that Suncoast Parkway expansion going up the Nature Coast, things are definitely moving up that way. Now
Sunrise Hills is located where? Oh,
Sunrise Hills. I think it was Cortez and off Cortez and 19.
Okay.
And then there's another one that was in there, Sandal Key. That one's closer to Weeki Wachee.
Yeah.
Both are the metro development groups, which make the lagoon communities. DR Horton, Lennar, and KB Homes are going to be in that Sandal Key. That's closer to the Weeki Wachee area. The other one's same, or is going to be DR Horton, DRB Homes, which you and I were just talking about before we came on live, and Lennar. So similar builders, but yeah, 2 different lagoons coming about the same time.
That's why I
had to go back and read that.
So that'll be number 6, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, I was going to go back and just make sure I was checking them all, but like this one said, you have Murata, Epperson. Those 2 are in San Antonio, Wesley Chapel, which most people would consider. Then you got Angeline. Angeline hasn't even started their lagoon yet. They're still breaking a lot of ground over there. I've visited that community quite a bit in the last 2 months. And then I was reading up on this article just north of us.
Yeah, that's crazy. And for anybody wondering, the lagoons communities, I mean, they're amazing if that's your thing. You know what I mean? Like Murata's 15 acres, Epperson's 7.5, I think. Sierra, which just opened in Parrish, it took longer than expected there, but that just opened. I think that's 4.5 acres. I could be misquoting some of these, but South Shore in Waimama is about 4.5 acres or 4 acres as well, somewhere in that range. Angeline will be is allegedly the next scheduled to be opened. That's they're working on, and then now we're talking about 2 more up there. Yeah. So Pasco will have 1, 2, 3, at least 3 lagoons.
Right. If you're putting San Antonio, I don't know if that dips over the line a little bit. And then those 2 Hernando ones. I mean, because the builder fees are still low. That was, now that the highway's kind of going up that way, it's very easy, accessible. And that's kind of what we call that Nature Coast area. It's more of that boating atmosphere.
Yeah, it's beautiful up there.
So I was reading about that today, and I was surprised. I had to go in and see if it just was 1 or 2. So I was really shocked when it was 2 separate ones.
Well, shout out to Hernando coming into its own right now. I mean, it's forever, y'all. That was like, she calls it the Nature Coast. Everybody else calls it the Forgotten Coast.
Maybe because I grew up in there.
Yeah. Well, no, it's beautiful. It's just, again, it's, it's not Tampa, and it's not trying to be. That's not the thing there at all. Right, Ashley? It's never been. No. That's not the focus there. Again, it's for people who want a little more peace, a little more land, less neighbors, and that's okay. Tampa Bay is busy, y'all. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, you can find your pockets, but there's a lot of people who live in the area here. I mean, the next census, I bet we're going to come in at somewhere close to 3.5 million people in the Tampa Bay area, which is a big, big number. And that's not even including Sarasota. If you blend that in, it's over 4 million already. So, those numbers are pretty big, but, you start going up towards the north end of, just the north end of Odessa, everything shifts so much.
Yeah.
It's all green space. I tell people all the time, like, I love that vibe. I love the fact that Two Rivers feels that way too, where it's built more into the land. I think that to me, still hands down, Starkey Ranch they did the best job of building into the land as it was,
like the nature of it,
out of anybody in all of Tampa Bay. I'm still convinced of that. So anybody that beats that, shout out to those guys. It's really hard to get in that development. People don't want to leave. It's close to the Suncoast Parkway, right up by Ashley over there, like beautiful area. And we've talked about these before too, but man, I'm excited to see, because there's a lot of cool, to Ashley's point, if you were a nature lover, like that's the spot. You're still close to the coast. Yeah, you don't get the white sugar sand beaches. You'll get some small man-made beaches. They're still beautiful. They also,
but you have the boating, you have the manatees,
exactly.
You have the springs.
So say if you're a nature lover and you actually get outside, that's where you're going to want to be.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Everybody has a boat up there. They're paddle boarding, they're kayak, they're doing all the things. You're on the springs. Like, I totally get it. I would spend 3 to 5 days a week in the water in a spring somewhere if I lived up there. Yeah. No question about it.
That's why Tampa Bay is the best of both worlds, because they're not far apart from those different activities and things that you can do. Beach or fish, kayak, springs, diving, all the things.
Yeah. I'm just too big of a foodie, and losing that many restaurants not going to work for me anymore. Where I feel like I have to take a helicopter to go down. And that's not true. They got some good restaurants out there too, but you definitely don't have as many as we're spoiled, between Tampa and St. Pete. I mean, y'all, like, Dunedin and Safety Harbor, and shoot, even up to Carrollwood and Wesley Chapel, you've got plenty of options, but it does start to slow down when you get up there. So, Ashley, this is great. I know we were in the weeds on numbers tonight. Thank you for answering the questions too, because y'all, she's in these properties. If you're looking for help in the area, again, she handles a lot of, for us, she handles a lot of North Pinellas. She's lived everywhere. She's our only Floridian, true Floridian on the team. But she's lived in Riverview, Brandon area. She knows the north end of the beaches over there really well. And of course, she's a Pasco resident up in Land O'Lakes too. Her girls are, and her kids are incredible. But she'll tell you all about the education system up in Pasco County. And she's also a cheer mom, by the way. So like this young lady. She's done a thing or two, and she's helped a lot of our clients win this year. I'm proud of her and proud of the team's work. If y'all have more questions about the area, you want to go deeper, feel free to reach out. Leave that comment in the comment section. Again, I'll put these resources in. Sometimes it usually takes me about a day to get them in, but I'll get the links in here so you guys can go check these things out as well. And again, do your homework. You have to take my word for it. Go look it up. Happy to have those conversations with y'all about what is happening in and around town. So excellent night. Thank you for sharing, Ashley, and spending time with us away from the family and with this amazing audience. Y'all have a great week, like Keith says. And Ashley, as we say every single time, you're going to nail it this time. Go out and what?
Live that Tampa life.
Live that Tampa life. Nice job. All right. Y'all have a great night. Take care.